Okay, so this is the current situation of our prototype. So it mainly consists of three parts, which is the charging dock, the main body, as well as the slider. So to give a brief look on how it's going to look like when it's being deployed. So this is the isometric view. So I will start off by going through with the main body. For the main body, actually houses the charging dock as well as the slider itself. So once the main body is being fixed onto the underside of a tabletop, the microphone dock will then slide in from the bottom through this opening, which is the inner rectangle that you see here. Then the slider will then slide in through this rectangular opening over here. And what the slider does is that it provides stability and power to the charging dock. As for the dimensions, the total length is 15.5 cm long and the height is 4.2 cm tall. Moving on to the charging dock itself that comes as standard, there will be two red LED lights at the two corners, which represents the charging status of the microphones, and it can also hold and charge up to two microphones simultaneously. So the overall dimension of the dock, it is 12 cm in length and 5.9 cm in totality for the height. And lastly for the slider. So this slider will act as a base for the charging dock to rest on and provide power for the charging dock through contact between the gold color pad and the pogo pins on the charging dock. The slider also has two little knobs at the bottom protruding out over here. So these two little knobs acts as a catch to keep the slider in place. These two little knobs will be aligned and synced in nicely into the two holes on the track of the main body. And the holes and the opening that you see here is to house the 5V female connector, and these two holes over here is used to run the power cable through, which will then exit from the back over here, which then comes out at the top and soldered onto the board itself. As for the dimension, the total length would be 14.29 cm and the height is 1.5 cm. So as mentioned earlier, that the slider acts as a base as well as providing power for the charging dock, this is what I meant. So there will be legs at the bottom of the charging dock, of which two will be in contact with the slider, and not forgetting the pogo pins as well. So from the side, it looks like this. In the middle, there's the gold color pogo pins and the two stands at the back that will be in contact with the slider itself. And to give a closer look at the two little knobs that is used to keep the slider in place, this is what it looks like. And how does the slider provides power to the charging dock? So once the 5V connector is being connected, we will then slide in the slider. Then the board, which is in green, that is resting on this angled surface will come into contact with the pogo pins. So once everything is being installed nicely, everything will be housed within the main body itself. So to demonstrate how the product works, it mainly consists of three parts: the main body, charging dock, and the slider. So on the main body itself, there is 4 screw holes that is used to install on the underneath of a tabletop. So once that is done, you will take the charging dock and slide it through from the bottom and make sure that it is flush. Like so. And the protrusion of the charging dock
would be 40 mm as stated in the proposed amendment. After that, in the end, on the slider itself, there will be a board over here that is used to power the charging dock through the pogo pins. And at the back of this slider, there will be a 5V female connector over here, which will have the power cables running through these two holes, exiting from the back and through the top, which will then be soldered onto the board itself. Also, at the bottom of the slider, there is two little knobs that matches the two holes on the track of the main body itself, which is used to keep the slider in place. So once this is being installed underneath the tabletop, all you have to do is take the slider and slide it in, which will then sit in nicely and flushed, like so. Yep.